I'm Sherry Kendall, and welcome to Hometown Salutes. Today, I'd like to introduce my guest. It's Fayette County veteran Don Orshell. Welcome, Don, to the show.
Pleased to be here.
All right, well, let's get started. Were you born and raised in Connersville in Fayette County?
I was born in Batesville, Indiana.
Okay.
But I was 1 year old when my family moved to Fayette County. Well, actually Wayne County, but right at the edge of Fayette County. We pretty well grew up around the Connersville area. Went to school at Cambridge City and graduated in 1966.
Okay.
And enlisted in the Marine Corps shortly after that.
So you enlisted, you weren't drafted?
Yes, I was about to get drafted, and I seen what was happening there, so I decided to enlist and to pretty much try to get what I would like to do. And so far it worked out real good for me. I'm glad I did.
Okay. So when you went to enlist, you didn't want the Marines at that point in time, is that right?
At that time, my dad was in the Navy, and he kept after me about being a Seabee. He was in the Seabees, and that's the kind of work that I was really wanting to do. So when I went for my draft physical, the Navy recruiter told me, he says, try to score, pay attention to this aptitude test they give you when you go down for your physical. So I did. I done the best I could, got back and went to his office, and he said, I got some not so good news. He said, you lack 2 points of scoring high enough on the test to get in the Seabees in the Navy.
Oh, no.
I said, oh, so he said, I think I can answer your question for you. He said, he said, right here is a man that I think can get you in the same work, but it's in the Marine Corps. So I was a little gibberish about that for a while, and I got thinking about it, and I went home and talked to my dad told him what happened, and he said, you know how he was. he was a red hot Navy man, so I thought it over, so he finally told me, he said, you do what you want to do. So I come down, I signed up, enlisted, and from there it was the Marine Corps for me. So went boot camp in San Diego, California.
Okay.
And
how long did boot camp last?
It was 12 weeks back then, and they was talking about dropping it to 8 weeks, being there was so much. Vietnam. There was a lot of guys going to Vietnam at the time, and so I still was in the 12-week basic training, and then of course we had another 3 or 3.5 weeks of infantry training at Camp Pendleton, California, and went through that and graduated from that and got orders to go to Camp Lejeune for heavy equipment school. Went down there. I think it was somewhere around the 1st of April, something like that, when I ended up down there and went to a month of heavy equipment school and stayed around Courthouse Bay, which was the training center for heavy equipment. And we stayed around there for a while, and I got orders to go to California and the shore party, which was at Oceanside, California. There was more or less beach landings, training you for beach landings, and we hauled equipment, unloaded equipment off the ship, and we had several maneuvers out there. And I was there probably, I want to say, about 3 months out there. And I didn't like California too well, and I was a long ways from home, being a young, I was only like barely, about 19 years old when I was out there.
Had you traveled much before then?
I had not traveled a lot, very little. Our senior class went to Washington, D.C., and that was the furthest from home that I had been. And other than that, I hadn't really traveled out of around home all that much.
Right.
So, yeah,
so when
it was all new to me, traveling that much. And of course, being gone basic training and all that, and I did get to go home and see Mom and Dad for 30 days before I went to Camp Lejeune. So that, and then of course I didn't go home then until I got orders to go to Vietnam when I was at Oceanside. So I got another 30 day, not quite 30 days leave because I didn't have enough built up because I'd used some. So I was home about 20 days
Before you left?
before I left to go to Vietnam. We left out on late November of 1967, and we ended up in country. It was spent like, I'm thinking 5 or 6 days in Okinawa, Japan, going over. That was there were so many people going and coming. That's where they going and coming. You stopped there before you ended up in country, and of course there was a lot of all kinds of stuff going on there. And I was glad to get out of there and actually get to where we was going, which it was quite a surprise once we got there.
Yeah.
You know.
How was it as you landed there that day?
Everybody was scared to death. You know how people, you've heard so many stories and
Right.
stuff. Everybody was scared, and of course they got us into our unit right away. We stayed around the Da Nang Air Base for a couple of days until they got us assigned to our company that we was going to, and that was 8th Alpha Company, 7th Engineers. And we finally got there. There was 6 of us got there at the same time. Me and one other guy was operators, and the rest of them were combat engineers, which they handled the demolition part of it. Part of them was bridge company, bridge builders. They built the pontoon bridges, portable bridges. We did a lot of that too while I was over there. We'd build them through the day, and Vietnamese would blow them out at night. We go back the next day and put a piece back in them, and
All that hard work.
until the infantry, they moved the infantry in, then watched it at night, and we didn't have too much problem after that. But yeah, it was interesting. We did a lot of bridge work too, with bridge company.
Is this when you were over at Nam?
Yes, that is one of my. That's where our battalion area, that's where our living quarters was. It was just basically a 2x4 frame with a tarp on it.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't turn the weather too good. We had it like.
How is the weather over there?
Well, we went through the monsoon season, which if it got to 65 degrees over there, you would freeze to death. I mean, you had a heavy coat on because just the temperature, it was so humid, or so much moisture in the air and stuff, that it was cold. I mean, once it got down to like I said, 60 to 65 degrees, we was cold.
Oh, gosh.
And of course, we had field jackets and stuff. We kept warm.
Right.
But yeah, that monsoon season seemed like it lasted forever.
Yeah.
But it was only about 2 weeks, and it'd get bad for a while, and then it would slack up, and but it rained every day.
Yeah.
Sometime during the day it rained. But yeah.
And this is you on base as well?
That was our work area, our battalion area, and that. But we was out in the field. Of course, we come in and out, and.
So this is when they.
That's a piece of equipment that I run part of the time. It's a road grader. That's what I done mostly was road grader.
Okay.
I run the dozer some, and just a little bit, whatever I had checked out for everything. I was trained on everything: crane operator, grader operator, dozer operator, truck driver. We had to be trained on everything.
And this is over at Nam as well, and you're building.
Yes, that's a civil affairs job that we did for the Vietnamese people. It was one of the, I should say, secure areas where they treated us halfway decent.
Okay.
It was close to the village, and it was it split a big river. One part of it went one way and one went the other, and they put that in to control the flooding when the river got up. So, and that's just another piece of equipment that I run while I was over there, the dozer. And another road that we was working on through the jungle. It was just a new road that they built for, I don't remember where it went for sure, but we did a lot of new roads, and for bases, a lot of it was we set guns for artillery. We had to cut a way to get to where they wanted to set the guns, so that was our job to build the road actually to get to it. And it was primitive roads; they weren't real good, but that's quite a lot of something new every day we did. I never liked to be with the gun batteries because we'd work all day setting guns for them, and they'd want to shoot all night. And here we boom, boom. We had to listen to that all night. Now, we didn't do that a whole lot, but it was always, we always tried to get out of it if we could. let the younger guys go do that, because we knew what was going to happen.
So when would your work day start, typical work day? What time?
Typical 7:30 of a morning, and it depended on what we was doing. We might get done at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but we was responsible for certain roads, certain amount of roads, and we tried to keep them. Of course, they'd put mines in them at night and blow big holes in it. If somebody hit one or they'd set one off, we'd have to go repair them. And we had a sweep team that, which mine detectors, and that wasn't too good a job to have either. Sometimes we lost a couple guys on the sweep team from accidents. They didn't get the mine detected. It real interesting. Like I said, we did a lot of different things, and we was, well, most of the time Da Nang area, but I spent about 2 weeks at Khe Sanh, which is close to the demilitarized zone. And they tore up all of our equipment, so we didn't stay up there too long. We was just setting guns and places for mortars and just whatever needed to be done. But my tractor got destroyed, and I was glad to get back to the Da Nang area. It was a lot calmer there than it was up there. That was a lot of action up there. But I'd say 75% of my time was around the Da Nang area.
Okay.
Some work with the air wing, which we have loaded helicopters, planes, whatever that was needed. Repaired runways, we've done some of that, because they would get hit with rockets or whatever sometimes. And we'd fix them. And
So let's kind of go back in time here, if you don't care. I know that
sure.
you did receive a Purple Heart.
yes, I did.
So let's talk about June 1st, 1968. What happened that day?
Well, we was on a road. There was a convoy. They wanted to run a convoy. It was about a 5-mile stretch. It was outside of a real sensitive village. There was a lot of NVA activity in it. They had a lot of trouble there. And the sweep team was supposed to went ahead of us. We got information that they had already swept the road, but we didn't know that they swept it 2 hours before we got there. And they were supposed to sweep right ahead of us. And we went about 2 miles up that road. I was cutting they had a bunch of blowholes in it from landmines. I was trying to fill those in, and I put up on kind of a mound, and there was another one there that they missed. And I hit it with the front of the grader and destroyed the front of the grader. And of course, there was 2 other guys on the grader with me. There was one infantry. My sergeant was with me, and an infantry guy was setting beside me on each side of me, and I was running the grader. Both of those guys got blew off of the grader.
Oh.
And I couldn't see nothing for about 5 minutes because it blew so much dirt and dust up in our faces. And one guy, he had a big cut on his arm where a piece of something off the grader hit him. And of course, I had a big chunk of metal in my arm that they took us, all three of us, to the Naval Hospital. And of course, I had to stay. Well, the one other guy had to stay too because he had a big cut on his arm. They sewed him up and sent him back. But I spent 19 days at NSA, which is Naval Support Hospital.
Wow.
And got out of there and went back to the unit. And I was pretty gun shy about running the grader for a while, but I finally got back on it. And of course, my grader was tore up. It was a brand new grader. I didn't use it much at all. I had to go back to my old grader, which it was a war, but I finished out with that. And then I got to run the crane some too. So I run a crane on the one job where we was the civil affairs job. I spent about a month out there with helping them guys. And we finished that job up, and then the NVA got in this town where they run them out once, and they infiltrated back to this town, and it got pretty bad. So we finished the job and got out of there, and they was getting close to the end of my tour when we finished up that job. That was one of the last jobs that I did while I was over there.
Wow.
Was the civil affairs job.
How did they treat you over there?
It depended where you was at. This village where we was working on this spillway, we had some real good. They was good people. They brought us all kinds. They fixed food for us and brought it to us. Sweet corn on the cob. This Papasan, he grazed this corn and brought it to us. He knew we liked it, and it was super good. We had nothing like that, you know, and all kinds of good eats. And this old guy and his wife could really cook, so they brought us food stuff, and we took care of them too.
Right.
And I had some time off. We went over and built some kind of a building for him, and we had lumber left over, and we went and built this building for him for helping us out. So it worked out real good.
Wow.
And we had a lot of trouble with kids, the young kids over there. Of course, some areas you didn't want to get anywhere around the kids. You wanted to real bad because it's cute as a button. But the Viet Cong would lace these kids up and with all kinds of explosives, and you didn't know what was going to happen. You just couldn't. It was a shame that we couldn't, enjoy being around these kids, but you just couldn't trust them. And so we was told pretty much to not. There are certain areas that they told us we could. Everything was fine, but out in the rough areas, wouldn't let them around. We'd run them off.
Yeah. Did you do much like with the 52s or the helicopters or?
Well, we transported sometimes. We would take short hops from one company to another on a shoey, or we would load and unload Chinooks, which was sea rations, got fuel, like a primitive area. We'd be out working where they was like working nights, generators and stuff. They would fly fuel in for those remote areas. And we did some of that. But as far as traveling very far on a helicopter, no, I didn't. Just short hops from one company area to another, or if they needed an operator somewhere quick, they would put us on a helicopter.
Were you able to communicate with your family?
Yes, we wrote letters. That was the only real good way of communicating. They had satellite phones, but we tried several times. To you only could be certain times. Only certain times you could do it, and it always was real late at night or real early in the morning. And of course, that I forget how many hours difference it was in between home and over there. But I was never able to communicate that way. A couple of the guys did. They were just fortunate that they got it the right time.
Huh.
But the satellite, that was the only way we could. I forget what they actually called it. It took forever to get set up to do it. But we was able to write letters quite often. So.
Right.
And we got mail pretty regular. Sometimes it would be 3 or 4 days before we get any amount of mail. A lot of times we get 3 or 4 letters at a time or something. Or a lot of times, guys, their folks sent them cookies, stuff like that, maybe for their birthdays or something like. A lot of times that they was fit to eat, and sometimes they wasn't.
Yeah.
It depends on
By the time they got there.
how long they sit somewhere, but
Right.
we eat them anyway. It always tasted good. My mom sent me stuff when I was cookies and candy and little everything.
Yeah.
And stuff that we couldn't get over there.
Did you ever? Did you have entertainment over there?
Bob Hope was there. Well, I saw Bob Hope
really?
one time at the Freedom Hill PX. There was 10,000 guys there probably at that concert. It was really good one. That's one thing I really liked about Bob Hope. He took care of the troops.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. It was real interesting. Give us a chance to drink some beer.
And relax a little
relax
bit.
a little bit, yeah.
So how was it when you left Vietnam?
It was about the same as when we got there. It was, of course, we went through Tet Offensive, and that was quite nerve-wracking. But after that was over, it calmed down, and I was glad to get out of there. Everybody, we had a chance where they asked us if we wanted to go home for 30 days and come back for 6 months. And a few guys did. I elected to stay home. So I ended up, when I left over there, I had orders to go back to Camp Lejeune and be an instructor.
Oh, good.
I instructed heavy equipment instructor.
Okay.
Which I got acquainted with one instructor when I went through school down there. And he liked me pretty well, so he said he said, when you come back, he said, look me up. He was a real nice guy. I met his wife. His wife lived on the base then, and he'd been to Vietnam and back. He went he went over about a month before I did.
Okay.
And he come back, and I went down there and I looked him up, and we worked together until I got out of the service, shortly before I got out.
So when you got out of the service, did you use what you were trained for in the military as a job?
I went back to work where I worked before I went in.
Okay.
And I stayed there probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, and then I got a job with actually the place I retired from.
Oh, really?
And I worked there for about 3 years, and then I didn't like the manager too well. So I took another job. I sold auto parts for a while, and that job kind of dried up. So I farmed with my dad for a while. He wanted me to come back to the farm, so I did. And farm times got bad, and I took a job in town. I worked in Richmond for a while, and then that job kind of dried up. It was a security job, and they changed the policy at the factory where we worked, and I slummed around for a while, didn't do anything, and I finally had an opportunity, went through the veterans, talked to this VA service officer, and he got me a job. At the time, it was 1988 and 89, and you couldn't hardly buy a job nowhere. Jobs are tight. And this service officer says, well, I think I can get you in whichever job you want. He says, the VA will pay half of your wages for a year.
Oh, wow.
So he went with me and talked to the manager of the place where I used to work. They was needing a person. And I can still hear this service officer, or VA service officer, he says, sir, he says, you'd be crazy not to hire this guy. Because I had all the experience and everything, and military experience, and they paid half of my wages. It didn't take him long. He said, you want the job, it's yours. So I spent right at 33 years
wow.
there, and retired a year ago in December. Be 2 years this December.
Wow.
And I enjoyed every minute of it. Did a lot of the same thing I did when I was in the service, and of course we didn't have to worry too much about being shot at or anything, but it was a thrilling experience. I really liked it.
Yep. So are you glad you joined the military?
I am. I was. If I see anybody that's thinking about the military, I try to encourage them. It's a good life to be. I mean, you learn a lot. Of course, you're going to have your bad times and stuff like that. But
right.
It's one of them things that, it's just, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
And,
what are some life lessons you learned because of the military?
the respect for people, hard work. Basically that, hard work. I worked hard all my life. I'm proud of what I've got.
Yep. So tell us about what you're doing now and your family.
Oh, I don't do a whole lot. I got a lot of friends I run around with. We go places. Just take life easy.
Yep. You deserve it, that's for sure.
Well, I feel like I do.
Yep, you do.
Yeah. So.
Well, Don, I want to thank you for sharing your story today. I appreciate you.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
I appreciate you taking the time to come into the studio.
Some of when I first got back from over there, a lot of the guys would not talk to nobody about it. The way we was treated when we got back, it wasn't pretty a lot of times. Some of the guys had a real tough time when they got back.
Yeah. I
personally never had any problem. I had a lot of friends before I went in the service. Had a couple close calls, people that didn't respect military people, and that was the only time, just very few times that I had any trouble. Most everybody pat you on the back and thank you, and
yeah, Vietnam was a bad deal.
It was a bad deal.
You guys had to do a job and didn't have a choice.
We had a job to do, and we did the best we could. And a lot of stuff got started about stuff that went on, which a lot of it was not true, and just stuff that people was heartbroken over it.
Right.
And the way they was treated, they did their job, served their country, and they felt bad about it. That's the reason a lot of them never talk much about it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and I'm just so glad to get to meet you.
Enjoy coming and doing it for you. Military it was good to me. I mean, I enjoyed every minute of it.
All righty. Well, thank you. Well, be sure to tune in next month where we'll highlight another veteran from Fayette County.